And that year at Austin P, I played on CBS twice. And I was like, I can't be mad. Like, my childhood dream is reached. And, like, I can't say I deserve more from the game of basketball. It's given me as much as it can. And I'm injured all the time, and I feel, bad bodily. I need to make sure I recover my body and just enjoy my life now. My life was basketball for 20 years, and that's what it defined me. And a lot of people said, like, hey, you're a basketball player, you're a basketball player, you're a basketball player. Now I can be something else.
R&B the podcast. R&B the podcast with Russ with Blake. R&B the podcast. R&B the podcast. What will we make? All right, welcome back to R&B podcast with Russ with Blake with a very special guest. Let me tell y'all, Russ is obviously the best man for my wedding, but we have one of my groomsmen with us today, the one and only Jarrett Givens. Yes, round of applause. That's our boy. We go back, way back. Russ and Jarrett were friends before I met Jarrett. Yep. And just, of course, the way God works, Jarrett became a very good friend of mine. And Jarrett, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah. You're glowing.
For sure.
Russ, how'd you meet Jarrett?
Man, well, I first met Jarrett as a competitor, right? Before I ever knew Jarrett as a friend, he was a dude that I would play against because we come up from the same area. We were always on like the same level of competition with club basketball teams and different things of that nature. So I probably guarded him before I ever actually knew him. I actually remember specifically us playing against each other in Tucson, like when I was in middle school, and we played against each other in a championship game, and we were going at it. Me and Jarrett were guarding each other the entire game. And then when I got into my freshman year of high school, we connected because we're on the same summer league team. And from that point, we were still competing even then. Yeah. Like when we met each other on the same team, it was like, I'm going at this dude because he was obviously like the other best player. And we would just go at each other and,
Nice. Yeah. And so Russ and Jarrett grew a lot together. They started at a low level of basketball and moved up the ranks beside one another and had a lot of success doing it. Jarrett, you've played at just about every level of college basketball. People get in certain situations where they can't move up, and you definitely beat the odds within that, and you performed at every level, which is something that's very impressive. And so explain to us a little bit of your journey, going from high school. Where did you start and finish as far as your collegiate career?
Yeah, so my freshman year of high school, I kind of went in, pretty confident, feeling like, I could pretty much do anything. Felt like I should have been on varsity. Felt like Russ should have been on varsity with me too. And, we both had a lot of talent. Felt like we had like the ability to, play at the Division I level as soon as we got out of high school and everything. And, the way the world works, we just didn't have that opportunity. I didn't have that opportunity. And so I had an offer from University of Great Falls. And I was very blessed for that opportunity because, not very many kids get that opportunity to play college sports. So taking the opportunity to, go out there to Montana, play out there, and make the best of the opportunity. Get in with the coaches, watch film, learn how to, fix my jump shot, fix different moves, upgrade my moves. And, my freshman year was a learning experience. I learned and got humbled by a lot of guys, met some great players, and that's what helped me propel, honestly, into another career at the D2 level. And then playing at the D2 level, I met even better players, met more knowledgeable, I guess you could say, like, systems. I learned a lot of different systems, different defensive strategies and everything that made me more knowledgeable about the game. And that's what I think propelled me to like get to the D1 level, was just learning, those first couple of years at D2 level. And getting to D1, at that point, it was just like sharpening your craft at that point. Because I'd already learned for the past 4 years. At that point, that fifth year was just putting it all together and going out there performing. So yeah, I think it's just a system of just putting everything step by step, brick by brick, and just working every day to get to that point where you want to be.
Yeah, you're an excellent example of you can develop no matter kind of what team or organization you're with and stay valuable within the market. But speak to how are some of the emotions when you're attempting to transfer and you might not know what's coming next, and you want to leave the last place, but you don't know where you're headed, or is that a difficult thing to deal with?
Yeah, it was, it was a really difficult situation. But I had a great support system. I had great friends with me. I had amazing parents to help me throughout the way. My dad was up day and night, looking for colleges for me to go to. And, he worked his butt off. And I give him all the credit for getting me my Adams State offer. I couldn't get anybody to answer the phone for me because I got my release so late. And my dad worked day and night, and he called me one day and was like, hey, I got an opportunity for you. I think you should go out for this visit. And, here we are. I think just having a support system is really what made me feel like less stress and feel like everything was doable. It felt like it was possible with a good support system.
Yeah. I was telling Russ that both of you are two guys that I look at and think back, and you've never been one to say that you can't do something. Like, if you don't do something, it's because you didn't try to do it, right? And it's like when you guys attempt, you keep taking the necessary steps, and you're both very coachable, and you're open to learning how to do things because you're humble enough to know that you don't know what you don't know, right? That's what my dad used to always tell me, and that's a phrase that a lot of people don't understand. But you've never complained about what was given to you, and you make the most of it and absorb that information, and then do your best to be able to apply it. And so for you, you guys were both in a great program in high school, and it was very competitive on your own team. Like, you guys had all-star players that you were playing with. So, of course, you were both performing at a high level, but then there's that level of competition even within your own team. And, of course, that's what led you guys to win how many championships?
Yeah,
3 championships, which is amazing within 4 years. So
yeah,
who does
at the
that,
highest
right?
level of Arizona
At
high school basketball.
Right. And so with that being said, you guys had great players around you, and there were times where you had to be role players, right? And again, you weren't ones to complain about that. I can think of people that, in basketball and football and baseball who, whatever school they were at, the team was stacked. And then not only the players, but oftentimes their parents too were upset about the dynamic and then the role that the player has to be in. But, you have to do what's best for the team. And that's what you guys did. And that's why you played such a vital role in those championships too.
Yeah. And, Jarrett kind of introduced a new style because he came from an excellent middle school program, right? Not many people are just winning at the level he did for
especially
so many
the
years.
actual public school team,
That's
not
what
like
I'm
the
saying.
club team, right?
Yeah, like his actual middle school had multiple Division I players on it, right? You guys would just blow everybody out, win all your championships. And I remember when I first started playing with Jarrett, I was always like, okay, I'm trying to be the leading scorer on the team I'm at, right? I come from trying to be the best person. And Jarrett would get like 12, 14 points a game just by running the lane and getting these like layups. And I used to get mad about it. I would be like, man, he getting easy garbage points. How he got more points than me? But he knew how to play. He knew how to play basketball the right way. He get open.
Key.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And you look up, he has 20 points already. And it's like, oh, man.
Nice. Yeah. That's part of the reason you had your success too. I was listening to Mike Tomlin talk about how at the professional level, people expect these spectacular plays all the time, but the professionals that actually make a lasting career are the ones that make the ordinary plays ordinarily, right? And they do those consistently over and over again. And then the opportunities for the big plays come in, but the consistency is what's going to pad your stats. And then everybody focuses on the highlights, but that's not even what it takes to get recognized for the collegiate level, right?
Yeah.
So again, for you to be able to start at Great Falls is NAIA?
Yeah, so it's a small NAIA. They're now called the University of Providence, but yeah, small NAIA out there.
Nice. But it takes a lot to be able to learn the program and learn the system at the NAIA level, and then the very next year going to the D2 level because it's significantly different from level to level, right?
Yeah, it's completely different. It's a completely different ball game. You got people at NAIA who are there for different reasons. You got guys there for academic reasons, just personal life reasons, and some of them had great opportunities beforehand. I played with a lot of guys that were D1 that ended up at NAI, and I was learning so much from them because they're miles ahead of me basketball experience-wise. So I had a lot to learn from those guys, and that's what helped me a lot too. So yeah.
Nice. And then you had a similar experience, right?
Yeah, and just like Jarrett, coming from a high school program where you learn to talk on defense and help the correct way, made it to where once I got to college, I was able to just hit the ground running because I didn't have to get taught how to be able to play or how to talk. And it was huge. And I didn't realize how valuable that was until I was around like 20 years old because I would see new freshmen come in and I was like, wow, this person can windmill and can score on almost anybody, but we set up a defensive scheme and they're always late and they have no value now. They can't play because they just aren't thinking the game yet.
Nice. Yeah, it's cool how your perspective changes once you're able to observe someone else that was in that same position, right? Last night we were hanging out talking about how we have a more similar perspective to our parents now. So even I'm sure both of your guys' dads were very involved in your basketball upbringing, right? And then if you look back, a lot of those things that they were teaching you at the time, not only about the game, but about your demeanor and what it means to be a basketball player, some of those things probably didn't stick until later on too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I don't know how you received your dad's feedback coming up, because my dad kind of had the style, sometimes could be harsh, sometimes could be mellow, but I was always like resistant. It didn't even matter. You know, my dad would be trying to give me great tools, but just being like rebel at heart or something, I would always kind of try to deny what he was saying.
Knowing that he had performed at a high level himself.
Exactly.
Right?
And he's thinking with me, like, man, this dude's stubborn. I'm just trying to tell him simple ways to make him way better. And I'm looking at him like, oh, man, I know what I'm doing. No, you don't.
Yeah. I don't know, how was that with you and your dad kind of interacting as you were growing up as a young athlete?
My dad wasn't exactly an athlete, so to say, back in the day, but he was very much emphasized, like, if you're going to do something, put 100% effort towards it, because me and your mom were supporting you for it. So, we had tournaments that would last like literally from Friday until Sunday night. We'd be finishing at like 9 p.m. And of course, for a parent, that kills your entire weekend.
Yeah.
So, if I had a situation where I wasn't showing effort or putting enough effort out there, my dad would definitely be the one to call me out. And it wasn't that he wanted to see me drop 30 points a game or anything like that. He just wanted to see me hustle and just be out there to just want to be there.
Yeah.
And, there's moments where he was just like, hey, like, it's all about the mental game. Like, if you sit there and you treat every shot like the end of the world if you don't make it, and you go in defense, you get scored on, you're not hustling time after loose balls, then there's no reason to be here. You don't want to be here anymore because you're out of the game. But if you're, on the loose balls, talking on defense, being active, your energy builds up. It builds up everyone else's energy, and it shows that you want to be here. And he's like, I want to support someone that's out there doing that. And so, like, my dad really motivated me just by telling me, like, hey, you want to be there. Like, I want to be here for you, so, like, show that you want to be here for me as well.
Right.
So it really helped me a lot.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That energy is almost like, a hand-powered generator, right? The more you work, the more energy you get out of it.
Exactly.
And the more fun it is, because as you try harder, you're more fulfilled in what you're doing. A lot of times the people that are, they have the bad body posture and they have the negative attitude. A lot of it comes because they're really not trying that hard, and they're making excuses like whatever the ref may be doing. We've seen everybody blame the refs for the outcome of the game or their performance, right? And sometimes it comes into play, but when it comes down to it, the people that enjoy the game and actually benefit from playing and continue to get better and better are the ones that try not to find excuses for their performance. You have to take accountability, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that's something that you had to learn throughout the years as well. We're talking about how both of you are so coachable. Did you have good experiences at each level with your coaching staffs, or was there something different that you saw maybe at the NAI level compared to D1 that was significant?
It's crazy to say, but I would have to say, still to this day, the best coach I've ever had was Coach Dwayne. That's still
High school basketball.
Yeah, that's still the best coach I've ever
Corona
had.
del Sol.
He knows the game like so well. Like it's crazy just seeing like how well he can orchestrate, no matter what talent he has.
Yeah. And
even you can attest, even our 2012, 2013 season, we had no ESPN top 100 players on our team. Yeah, we finished the season like top 20 in the country, which is crazy. We had no one even over 6'5" on our roster. But he just knew how to implement and move people into the right places to make them look good. And in college, you have great coaches. Like I had amazing coaches all through college that gave me the tools to be successful. But just the connection that Coach Dwayne had with his players was just different. It like really, he was someone I wanted to reach out to whenever I felt like I didn't know something about basketball. Because I felt like he would know and he would connect with me better about it, But yeah, I think everyone, all my coaches all had their own greatness in their own way. I think they all taught me different things. I think each level, there's different levels of intensity. From what I did at Austin Peay, but compared to UGF, like Austin Peay was really hard. It was a tough situation. I had a tough coach, but he was tough because he believed in his players. And as you get older, you start to realize that over the time. You know, you go through all the yelling and the screaming and like the running. And you're just like, I hate this. Like, this guy doesn't get us. This doesn't help us. But in reality, he's pushing you to be better. And like those extra practices and the extra conditioning we did was to make us better. And we had a great season because we got pushed hard. But like the moments where I wasn't pushed hard throughout my season, I had a really rough season and it showed. So yeah, just the coaching styles were so different throughout all 5 of the coaches I had throughout my years in college. So yeah.
That's really interesting. Go ahead.
No, you.
I was just thinking because similar, like you, I've had a lot of coaches, and my high school coach, I feel like, was the one that set me up and showed me kind of the real game and how I was supposed to do it. One thing that Coach Dwayne used to do that I think is really only he did is that he would have these little like pre-practice meetings with each player. Like we would always warm up with doing our jump shots and going to our own hoops, but he would walk around with like a paper, sometimes some stats, sometimes he had something written down, and he would just for a couple minutes talk to you about something that happened in the last game that probably only you were really thinking about because it wasn't a huge moment. It was like, hey, I remember in the third quarter when this play happened, and like, how'd you feel about that? You know what I mean? And now you're like, oh, wow, he's paying attention to my little detail. And then when we come together as a group, he like broadens it and makes it about all of us now. You know what I mean?
That's dope.
Yeah, and that's a really good like leadership hack is, you know, make every person think that you're paying attention to the details of just them, you know, and then move on to the next person, make them feel that way too.
I'm glad you went first because I was just going to ask both of you to explain what it was about Coach Dwayne that caused you guys to respect him so much while he was coaching.
Bro, and one thing I can say for sure is that he was the same guy with every player. You know, I've had coaches that the best players on the team, they're like soft-spoken to them and they're yelling at the 14th dude on the bench. And Coach Dwayne was like, nope, from the top to the bottom, same dude. And that's respect off top. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I definitely never had a coaching experience where the coach was asking me what I felt about a play, right? And that emotional aspect is so important to performance, especially with kids, right? You know, 16 years old, all these emotions and hormones and distractions, and to be able to compete at a high level, you do have to be emotionally intact. I know I had maybe a couple of situations in football where, you know, you have these outbursts and it's a very physical game. So, you know, it happens sometimes. But I definitely had a couple of teammates where their outbursts either got them kicked off the team or got them ejected from a game or got them in some level of trouble, right? And I do think that if more coaches took time to ask the players how they feel about certain things and make them express that emotion, then they would have better control and then in turn have better performance, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. And so
another big thing is the use of rituals, right? So he introduced that. Whenever we'd have playoff games, we'd meet at his dad's house and they would cook the same meal. It'd be like spaghetti and like breadsticks, right? Or some type of garlic bread. And every single time it'd be the same message. What was the message? Go home tonight and
envision
visualize
yourself. Visualize you winning the championship.
Yep. Visualize you making the play that we need to make and visualize you doing the best at what you do. And everyone would go home and do it and we'd come back and win. And it would just be set up.
And he would order the same Subway sandwich. Like he would order one sandwich to start the year. And he would order that sandwich every single game day and never change it. And the sandwich he would go with would always be tuna. He would always eat a tuna sandwich, which was like weird, like why tuna? But he went with tuna the first year we won a championship, and he remember him telling this at the end of the year, like banquet, like I've been eating a tuna sandwich like all year. I'm so happy I get to stop doing that and pick like a new sandwich. Like he was so happy. But yeah, he was just like, he was definitely like a player's coach. For someone that didn't like talk to us a lot, he really knew how to demand respect as soon as he walked into the gym. Like he'd walk in, everybody like, coach is in here, and we'd all form shooting, continue warming up. And like Russ said, like he was very personal. Like he would come talk to you and just be like, hey, like, you're stressed about this. Hey, what's going on with this? Hey, what's going on with this? And like film wasn't like a stressful thing. Film was like, I'm going to go in and learn. I'm not going to go in and get teased or picked on for like 20 minutes and be like, oh, I forgot that screen, or I didn't get in help side, or I didn't do this. Like he was just like, hey, like this happened. Everyone needs to be able to listen in because this is all, everyone does this. Everyone misses help side. Everyone misses a box out.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just made everyone feel better about themselves as players.
That's such a great point because I didn't think about that. I definitely felt that way in high school. Like we're all just learning in film. I was on some teams in college where film would start, and I'm like, oh man, like I know what's coming because I remember the play, and I know that coach is gonna stop, look at me, and start
rewind it.
Just like, what are you doing here? You're just like, I don't know.
Yeah, film was. usually rough in my experience. And it's like, even if you had a good game, there's always that one play where you're like, oh man, I don't really want to deal with it. But our coaches never asked us how that made us feel. It's like, yeah, I'm embarrassed and I know I messed up and I feel bad because it cost a touchdown or something, right? But instead it's like ridicule and shame you for it, right? And there's such different responses from that, and that's probably why my football team won 3 games and you guys won a championship. Right. That leadership is so key, and then it trickles down, right? Having good leaders as coaches enables the players to be good leaders as well, and then they have the accountability within the team. And I know that you guys had strong connections with your teammates as a result of that coaching effort too, and just making it more of a family. And then everybody wants to try hard so that, you know, your brothers can be successful as well, and that's how it takes you all to the top, right?
Yeah, you know, like I tell this to so many people when they ask me about like keys of what I think a good team is. And for basketball, it's that whoever is your practice squad, the players who are going to be running the other team's plays so you can scout them, they need to be bought in. And that was what it was with us in high school. Our practice team was better than most teams that we played. And that you can't put like any value on that. That's going to make you amazing. But what does a leader have to do to make someone who knows they're not going to play buy in at that level? You know, you got to let them know that we're all going to make it together, and you're going to get a ring, and you're going to be a champion because of the way you pushed Jarrett today. And that's your role, you know?
Yep. And it's good to explain it to them, right? And then, you know, don't leave any gray area for people to fill in the blanks, because you don't want it to be a negative perception. So if you are direct and take control of that situation, then the outcome's going to be more favorable, right? Yeah. Nice. So, I mean, as all athletes in the room, we understand how the sports mentality and the team mentality translates into the professional world, right? We've all worked jobs now in team settings where we've seen weak players and good leadership, poor leadership, and people that abuse whatever situation it is, somebody that doesn't carry their weight, right? And us coming from that sports background of high-level athletes and high-level competition, we have high expectations for the people that we work with, right? And we understand that work environment can be so detrimental if the leadership is poor and if the morale is low and people aren't putting in the effort and carrying their weight, right? And that's why, you know, for me, I hope at least my kids will be motivated to at least try a sport and just be in that team environment, just because it's so easy to develop those qualities in that setting to me. And I mean, personally, I think that sports allowed me to excel in school too, because I had to. And then it was just an expectation and a habit, you know, me wanting at that time to play college football. You know, college comes with good grades, so I need to make both of these things work for me, right? And it wasn't really a matter of if I want to or if it's going to happen. It was just the habit. The same way that I expected to perform on the football field, I expected to perform in the classroom. And that's something that my parents drove home a lot. They didn't really care if I played sports. They just wanted me to get good grades, because they understood, like, whatever I wanted to do, I needed to get good grades first to do it. And then the rest of it, they kind of let me choose to do. And you know, there were times where I thought that I wanted more of that direct presence from my parents, kind of motivating me to be more interested in sports or, you know, put in that work or that practice. But luckily, I was able to do that on my own accord. And my parents played their role in making sure that I was successful in my education, which in turn was more important because, you know, with concussions and stuff, I decided I didn't want to play college football, and I still was able to get an academic scholarship. So leaving those options open is so important. And you know, we've all seen very talented people that we expected to play professionally that didn't, right? Yeah. And we've seen that end in so many different ways. Like, a lot of people make the best of it, and they utilize those skills that we just talked about and move them into the professional world and do their thing. And some people are lost, and that transition can be very difficult, right? Whether you make it to the college level or don't and think you're going to go professional or whatever it may be, transitioning from an athlete and having that routine can be a little bit of a daunting task. I don't know if there's anything specific that you feel you could tell our listeners that may be making that transition on what might benefit them and being a little more comfortable and being ready to transition those skills into a different setting.
Yeah, I think I think one major thing that I had to come to terms with when I decided that I didn't want to play pro basketball is just understanding that what was the reason why I got into basketball. And the real reason why I got into basketball was just because I had a dream, and my dream was to always play on CBS. That was my biggest dream. I always wanted to play on CBS and play on primetime television. And that year at Austin P, I played on CBS twice. And I was like, I can't be mad. Like, my childhood dream is reached. And, like, I can't say I deserve more from the game of basketball. It's given me as much as it can. And I'm injured all the time, and I feel, bad bodily. I need to make sure I recover my body and just enjoy my life now. My life was basketball for 20 years, and that's what it defined me. And a lot of people said, like, hey, you're a basketball player, you're a basketball player, you're a basketball player. Now I could be something else. And there's nothing wrong with changing your skin or changing your stripes or whatever you want to say. It's okay to do that because the real world's going to come at some point. And eventually at some point, that ball, the field, or something is going to disappear from your life, and you're going to have to get to that real world. And that's okay. You can still love those things. I still play men's league. I still watch basketball. I still play 2K. I still talk basketball with my friends every day. Like, it's still in my life a lot. It never goes away. But eventually you do have to hit that point where you're just like, hey, like, I had a goal, and at the end of the day, I can be proud of myself knowing that I hit that goal.
Right.
Let me move forward with a new goal in mind that's going to, benefit people around me or benefit, people that I don't know. It's just, you just have to have a different mentality, I think, once you hit that certain point in time, I guess.
Yeah. And we've seen it be difficult for so many people, but the way that you're putting it, I think is very helpful for people. When you're young, it's daunting. When you're young, the idea of you being done playing is like, nah, not me. Not me, bro. Like, I'm going to go and do the highest level of things. And me and Jarrett have actually even seen players that were great in high school but couldn't go to college because of their grades. Right? You're very great academically. I'm wondering for you, Jarrett, we have young athletes that listen to our podcast. In your experience of all this college basketball, what were the best resources to help you maintain the grades that were necessary?
The best thing that helped me the most was honestly reaching out to my professors. I think one major thing that I really took notice into my sophomore, junior year was reaching out to my professors more often in email. If I had a question about a course, or say I was struggling with a module or something, just simply asking like, hey, can you go over this again in class next week? Or hey, can you go over this again for me? Or hey, can I even come into your office and just get like a personal attention on this? And they're always open to do that because they want to see you succeed too. They know the trials and tribulations you deal with as just being a student at a college. You deal with, your social life, you deal with, sports if you have it, clubs. There's so many different things you're working with at one time, so your mind is all over the place. So it's best to just reach out to people. I think a lot of people get so caught up in the idea of like, I'm struggling in school. It's okay to just be quiet about it and I'll figure it out over time. But like reaching out to an advisor, reaching out to your professors, and like reaching out to other peers, people have the same questions you do too. I mean, like there's moments where I didn't know what I was doing with a lot of the stuff I was doing math-wise because I was trying to get into further math classes and get an accounting degree. And I had to reach out to my classmates, and that helped me. I ended up passing my class, which I was going to fail and be ineligible, but reaching out to my classmates and peers helped me pass my class. So.
Nice.
Yeah. That takes courage, and we keep coming back to this kind of idea that the courage to reach out to people.
Humility, too.
Man, it can enhance everything that you're doing, right?
Yeah, admitting that you don't know.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Jarrett, you're always somebody that I've thought was relatively positive in almost every situation I've seen. Like you don't seem like you get fazed very easily. And is that a quality that you feel you've always had, or was it developed at a certain time in a certain way?
I think that's a quality that is honestly passed down throughout the Givens family. My dad, he's a grumpy person if you ask my mom, but overall he's like a really happy dude. Like he looks at life in a really positive way. And my grandfather, of course, rest in peace to him, he was like the most carefree person in the world. Like nothing faced him. And when people talk to me, they're always like, oh, you're just like your grandfather, like so carefree, like you're positive, you're happy. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's like how all the Givens men are. I think that's just what we promote. Just like we just give off happiness and a good vibe. And I'm so blessed to be from a generation of men like that just promote happiness and just give off such a happy vibe. But yeah, I think that's all just like natural Givens energy, honestly. Just being happy.
Yeah, I mean, Jarrett's the ultimate testament to like what the father integrated in the family the correct way produces. You know what I mean? He's always been that. It's been like, wow, this is the goal, the American goal when everyone's trying to figure out how to fix these problems. It's like, well, look no further. Like, get your family and look after it, you know, and you'll grow people like that. I used to see Jarrett's dad in the gym putting up more weight than anyone there, and he'd just be isolated, you know, doing his own thing, super consistent, like all the time. I'll see Jarrett's dad and be like, all right, well, that's motivating because I hope to be able to do that when I'm his age, you know?
Yeah. And then, like you said, your dad wasn't an athlete growing up, right? But he has these healthy habits and he's consistent and has a routine with his professional life that has brought him success in what he does as well. And you've taken the correct notes along the way and had that leadership in the home, like Russ was saying. And we talk about leadership in all of these different areas, and it's always important to have a leader, right? Yeah. And you know, that's why I always feel like the father should have a leadership role within the home. You know, people talk about gender roles, and that's often has like taboo behind it, but you know, that's true masculinity to me, being able to show the rest of the family that, one, they're protected, and two, that they can be strong and be kind and be motivated to do great things. And the consistency and the dedication is all that it takes. And having that humility and the support is very important, right? Yeah. And so you've learned to be resourceful in the sports world and in the educational field. And shout out to you having a master's degree. I was telling Russ, you know, sometimes I forget my boy got a master's. Like that's not something that we can just overlook. And you should be proud of yourself for that, especially being an athlete. We know so many athletes that don't graduate, right?
Yeah.
And or like you said, don't even have the good enough grades to begin college sports, right? So
yeah, and I mean, I work with a lot of middle school age kids who are telling me, hey, my dream is I'm going to the NBA. But they do not connect school with their route to their dream. And I'm sitting here like, well, you better start using resources. You better start asking your teachers what you can do to understand a concept, because you're not going to even play in high school if you're not going to your classes and taking it serious.
Absolutely.
You know,
you got to understand the necessary steps and take them. You can't skip steps, right? It would be nice. A lot of people, I mean, even wanting to go from high school to the pros, I have mixed emotions about that. I actually ran into a guy earlier today who he didn't go to college before going to the NBA, right? And I just, my experience with college personally, and then the athletes that I've known throughout college, and having that kind of stepping stone to the professional level, because it does take a level of professionalism that is often taught at the collegiate level, right? And that transition of going from a boy to a man, and also trying to go from a amateur to a pro at the same time can be very difficult, because that's asking a lot of a child, you know, an 18-year-old child, in my opinion. We call college kids adults technically by law, but I know me personally, I didn't really start behaving or operating as an adult until after I was out of college, you know, even maybe a year after that. So we all go through this process at different speeds, and we've seen a lot of young athletes that they have the demeanor, they have the skill, they have the strength, and it is like they're a grown man and they've been trained to perform in press conferences and stuff like that, and it's very impressive. But that's just not something that the average athlete is able to do that efficiently, right? I know you guys have played with guys who have made it to all these different levels, right, and that continue to have success. Is there, I don't want you to name drop anybody, but just what qualities have you guys seen that are just essential for someone to really have that longevity in their success?
What do you think, Jarrett, before I go? You can go first.
Playing with some really great guys, I think a quality that they all share is just like the ability to be humble. And it's more than just like acknowledging the fact that like knowing you're not the best, but you have much to learn. But like these guys are like always willing to learn. Like no matter what the situation is, they're like, hey, like I can learn at all times. And even, you know, I can throw my boy out there, my boy Terry. Like Terry learns a lot about the game. Like the dude watches basketball all the time. He was here last week and spent most of the time watching basketball film. You know, he wants to learn. He wants to get better. He wants to be the best he can be, and he wants to be able to stay in the league as long as he can, because he knows everyone's doing the same thing. You know, guys' free time is spent just watching film, watching, other teams, watching other guys, watching training videos. And that's the reality of it. Just being humble, knowing like your craft is never done. You're never finished with what you can be. You can always be better than the next guy. There's always someone that's doing much more than you're doing. You could be going to bed at 11, but there's a guy that's shooting hoops at 11:30. You just never know. There's someone always working to be better.
Yep.
And understanding that and taking that outlook at basketball as like, it's a never-ending game of learning instead of it just being a finish line somewhere in there is just the right way the best players look at it. I mean, Kobe never stopped looking at the game as just an experiment or something he could work on all the time. Bron doesn't stop. He works at it every time. And Bron doesn't even say he's the best. People ask him if he's the best all time, and Bron always says, like, man, I hear a lot of people say it about me, but, But he'll step up and say he's the best player when he needs to. Yeah. He needs to prove it, which I think that's just what sets the Gates apart.
Right. Yeah, it's integrated into their personality to just do these things. I'm gonna name drop one person too, a man from North Dakota named Tyler Rudolph. When I went and played Division II at Minot State, he was the player of the year in the conference. Averaged 30 points a game. He always led our conference in points and rebounds at the 4 position. And dude, this guy, I remember I would walk into our arena because I would cut through there to like go to class and go to the cafeteria. I just hear a ball bouncing, like look, it'd be Rudolph in there just getting jumpers up, in there working on his post moves. He would get done, ice bath. I'd go in the locker room. He'd be in there doing a little ab circuit from his phone, some like thing, and he's just by himself the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, this dude works super hard. Like I'd never have played with anybody like this, but then so unguardable, you know what I mean? And it just showed that it wasn't like he was forcing himself to do anything. It looked like that's what he wanted to do. Like you were talking about your dad saying, it looked like Rudy, that's what we call him, Rudy. It looked like Rudy wanted to be there just working hard, so that, and then like he said, being able to be humble enough to accept feedback. I've never seen any great players I play with fight with our coaches. I never see them be like, shut up or leave the practice in like a whiny manner. They always take their feedback and just keep moving.
Yeah, because that only lasts so long. And unfortunately, some players get on teams where they're allowed to do things like that. And then it's only going to stifle their progress. Success and, your performance is a direct reflection of the work you put in and the consistency that you have behind it, right?
And if you're not that guy, like it's not a bad thing, right? If you don't just want to put in all that extra work because you're motivated to, you probably just need to like shift your focus to whatever it is that you do want to put that extra work into, you know, like, because it should come natural. I believe that it's not supposed to be so forced when you're going to be great at something. It should just flow, right? Because it's what you're destined for.
Definitely. And then sometimes you just have to feed into those interests that you have, Some people think that their interests are just hobbies or not significant in what their capabilities are, right? I think about like Jarrett, for instance, in high school, we'd be sitting at the lunch table and he'd be like drawing on his phone, had this little app, and he's doing doodles on the phone, right? And I'm over here thinking like, what is this dude doing? Like we're all talking and he's just in his own world over here, like making whatever doodle. And then here he is now, though, designing clothes, making a brand. And so I just say that because whatever people are interested in, it doesn't matter if someone else approves of your interest, right? You know what you're interested in, and you've always stayed true to what you do, and then here it is manifesting and a lot of potential. And it's something that you've worked on over many years, and it's coming to fruition of what it is that purpose was behind it, right?
Yeah, man, I just saw, we didn't talk about this last night, I just saw your guys' brand got up on Instagram, and you followed us. What's the brand called? If you could talk about it a little bit, I think we can get into that.
Yeah, so me and Tevin Mayfield, we're starting a new brand that we want to kind of like push to be a more environmentally friendly brand. So we're trying to see what we can do in regards to finding, something in regards to reusable material for a lot of our clothing, so we're not damaging the environment any further. But our brand's called Brand 96, and it's based off of our birth year of 1996, and the generation of, everyone before the year 2000. Our generation is, going away. The 1900s is eventually fading away, and now there's a bunch of people being born in the 2000s. So we're trying to bring in style that's going to really implement our generation, really put our generation on the map with fashion and everything like that. Very simplistic styles, though. But, we want to make sure we have simplistic style, but also creative and something that really makes you feel proud to rock the clothes you're rocking. We want to, hopefully, make some releases here soon. We don't have any for sure lock-in dates right now. We're we're finishing the touches right now. We're really excited about the brand. We want to expand it as much as we can, and build a platform for other people. Hopefully. But yeah, it's really exciting. There's a lot to come. We got a lot of work to do still. But yeah, I think it's in great hands right now. I think we have a great system right now. Me and him work really well. But yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, finding a partner that aligns with your vision is huge. Being able to work with somebody who you guys have the same kind of vision towards what you want to create. What are you going to ask?
Oh, you just both have the ties to the overarching idea of Brand 96. I think that years 1995, 1996 are really special because they're kind of like in between, like we were talking about, right? Don't really get to call yourself a 90s baby quite, because you didn't really experience being a kid in that time, but at the same time we're not 2000s kids, right?
Exactly.
And it's like what is being that 96 kid?
Space
right?
Jam. That's
Space
what I always
Jam.
think. Like when I think
There's
of
a
90,
lot that happened in
96 was a great year.
96.
I wish I had researched all the things, because that was a very eventful year.
Well, some off top, you got Space Jam, you got Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and you got Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt.
Oh,
all
that was
three of
96
those things
too.
came out in 96,
Oh,
man.
nice. And there's so much more than that.
It's so much more, but those are my three. When I think of the energy of the year I was born, I like to have those three things as kind of like, that's me. You know what I mean? Those three things are me, man.
And then we were talking about our experience with technology. We were right around the time where people started having computers in their houses, and the internet boom, and the year Y2K, all that stuff, where we were little kids, but they're still so impactful for us. And then we go through like 9/11 and Hurricane Katrina, and then the 2007 recession, and then it's like growing up in all those times. That's going to be like very historical when we look back at it, and we're in our 40s and 50s, right?
Yeah.
And then right now it just feels like current events, right? I don't think a lot of people look at it as history, but here we are 27 years down the line, so we're definitely getting to that point. Especially you talk about these 2000s kids feeling like the 1900s is medieval times, right? And in ways it is, because again, like the advancements in technology that we've seen, going from brick cell phones when we were babies, and then now we got the iPhones and the personal computer in our pocket, Chat GPT in my pocket, all of those advancements, for us to have basically started from diapers and see all these things grow with us, I think is pretty cool. So you guys figuring out a way to envision that within a clothing brand that I'm sure will be a lot more than clothing, and also having that purpose behind it of being environmentally friendly, I think is important too. So we're of course excited to support you guys as you build and get everything locked in. You guys can expect to see like some R&B collab with Brand 96 in the future, right? But it's just so important to have a circle like this, right? People that want to do things that are scary and take that leap of faith and be creative. I always talk about, us being men of God. The most amazing thing we could do is be creators, because the Creator gave us all this ability to create and build, right? So like me creating my family and trying to build upon that, and then us with our businesses, and then just creating this bond that we have with each other is something that we just can never take for granted. And I know that we won't allow each other to do that, right? Some bonds that you make in your life are just they're different to the point where you don't even have to do a lot of work to nourish them, right? We all had our time in college where we were a little more disconnected just because we're in different states. We're doing our own thing, right? And there's a lot of time that's required of us to do what we're doing. But we found our way back into this area of Phoenix, and then here we are helping each other build stuff up. And then so it's just so important to nurture your relationships and let people know that you appreciate them. And I'll tell y'all that I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you too, bro.
I feel like I've always struggled like labeling a role model, but I definitely surround myself around people that I'm okay with being similar to, right? I'm never going to try to be like someone else, but I like being around people that have a similar vision and that know that this isn't their final form, and I can see them moving towards that, and it's like we're all pulling each other along, right? And sometimes one of us might be ahead of the other, and there's never any type of envy or jealousy between that, because we know that whoever's ahead is going to be pulling us along, and then eventually I'll be the one leading the pack, right? And we're all taking turns being the basically the one putting the team on their back.
Yeah, it's
right?
like so to speak, they used to call it the Indian run, right? In
Yeah,
football practice, where the person in the back has to go to the front.
Yeah.
That's kind of how our group is, and that's a good way to set up your relationships, is to think about it that way.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely.
I want to ask you, Jarrett, because you're so even keeled, but I know you've played and gone through big moments with a lot of people watching you. When was the last time in your life where you were nervous to do something, where you just felt like butterflies in your stomach?
Oh man, honestly, every 2 weeks, I would say I host a meeting at work, and it's the most nerve-wracking thing in the world. It's nothing crazy. It's just a discussion forum where people come into a meeting and they just ask me questions and I answer the question for them. And something as simplistic as usually is there's 2-3 people in there, but it drives me crazy. The anxiety, I just can't handle it. I'm anxious. I'm sprinting around the house, and then right before the meeting, I'm like sitting looking at the Google Meet, just like who's gonna come in there, and then I see like a name pop up. I'm like
now I have to enter.
Yeah, I'm in the worst world of my life, and I have to go in and answer this person's question.
Yeah.
So I mean, I do try to stay even keeled, but like little things like that still get under my skin. But like having to host a meeting or like having to do a presentation, or those things still bug me.
Yeah.
But you know, it's different than basketball. Basketball is like natural. I just
Yeah.
feel like I'm alone when I'm on the basketball court. Whereas when I'm in a work situation, it's work and I'm in trouble.
Yeah, I understand that for sure. That's interesting.
Is there anything that you've tried to implement to just have better control of that situation as you've done it more times?
Yeah. So as you do it more, it gets easier. And my dad always says this comment of, you know, think fast, talk slow. You think fast, but you talk slow. People think you know what you're talking about. It feels more comforting knowing someone's talking slow to you
That's great
rather than
advice.
running through everything you're saying.
Yep.
So that helped me a lot and helped people understand what I was saying in a lot of those meetings where I was just like, hey, I'm not sure about this question, but I can look into it and I can get back to you as soon as possible once I do have an answer for you. And so many more people are happy with that answer rather than me going, oh my gosh, I don't know, and like searching for like 20 minutes and then being like, yeah, I don't know.
Or lying to
Or
them.
lying to them and giving them the wrong answer. So it's just better to just be honest and just be like, I don't know, and just get out of the situation. Just be like, hey, but I can find that answer for you. And that takes so much pressure off both parties.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Think fast, talk slow.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
it's
good.
like you're choosing your words. You got all this stream of stuff going by, and you're strategically taking what you want and putting it into the world.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's how you really create. You
Yeah,
know?
I've always been more of a slow talker, and I've never thought about it that way, being kind of a benefit in how you present yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because I've at times been like, oh, I wish I could like say what was on my mind quicker, right? But at the same time, people tend to listen to me and absorb what I'm saying easier because I present it in a way that they can process. And then also I'm, like you said, being able to process what I'm actually putting out a lot easier that way. And I get it from my mom. You know, we have that I guess the Southern quality of communication where you know it's a little more leisurely than the West Coast vibe where everybody's like go, and my mom would tell you that I've had times where I'm like, okay, come on, like tell me what you're like, but it's like it's effective though. Whatever she's saying, there's quality behind it. Just sometimes maybe you could shorten it up or present it a little quicker. But I mean, I'm grateful that she communicates that way because that is certainly why I do that similarly, right? And again, it trickles down, and we have the leaders in our life, the people we look up to that are secretly just rooting for us all the time, and they're like they're behind us, giving us these tools, whether we're aware of it or not, right? And it was definitely later in life that I was able to realize the little tips and tricks that I picked up from not only my parents but people that I've grown up watching on TV, such as athletes like Kobe and LeBron, right? So you watch them play basketball and you don't even realize that you're motivated sometimes, and you're just sitting there in awe looking at what they're able to do. But then you guys go into the lab and you're doing your workouts and stuff, and just seeing that it's possible to perform at that level can be so empowering, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You talk about iron sharpening iron, man. Like me and Jarrett, we used to be in Lifetime in the gym all off season. We'd both get home for the summer and it was every night. We're in there 2-3 hours recreating whatever we saw on TV. Like, hey, you saw that Rockets game. It was this move that was made. And we sitting there trying to see who could really do it the right way. All this type of stuff. We just spent so much time working. And I've wanted that to be known in this podcast, you know, before we ended. I've never played more games with any other human being other than Jarrett, you know, because we played on the same club team the whole time in high school and the same high school team for every single game. And it's just a testament to kind of like when you go to war with someone so many times, how you know him. Like, I know what Jarrett would do. If we went and played right now, I know what Jarrett would do. You know what I'm saying? And that just level of communication in a relationship, it makes it seem where I could not talk to Jarrett for like a decade and I'd come back and be like, oh, that's Jarrett. Like, you know what I mean? Exactly. I'll never like not know who he is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So since you know Jarrett so well and his tendencies, can you guard him?
I've guarded him. I mean, I've spent a lot of time.
It's crazy because no matter where I've gone, I think Russ is the best person that's ever guarded me. Yeah. Like, by far, Russ guards me better than anyone else.
Because that was like a specialty I have, and then also we spent all of our time making our moves together.
So many summers, like I do attribute like a lot of my basketball skills to Russ. Yeah, because I spent most of my summers with Russ. There was a point in time where we went every single day, 2 times a day, going to the gym. We would be playing pickup in the morning, and we'd be like, "Hey, you trying to be back here at 5 o'clock and get shots up?" And we'd be back here getting shots up, and it made us so good. There was points in times where we were missing, like we would go in open gyms and just not miss. And people be like, why are you guys like this? And then sure enough, we'd finish open gym and we'd get shots up. We'd be like, hey, you trying to go 10 spots again? Yeah. And it was just like, again, we wanted to be there. We loved the game. We had a passion for it, and it made us so much better. Like we really had the definition of iron sharpens iron every single day. Like it was good.
Putting in the work.
Yeah. And no matter what comes of it, you're always just going to be proud of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So people could be like, oh, you spent all that time, and then what happens? Well, you're proud that you learned how to work at something. And then you just keep taking it and moving what your goal is because you know how to work. You know?
It's hard to be disappointed when you really gave all your effort in something. I think when people fail and they're beating themselves up, it's because they know they could have prepared more, right? And they know that they failed because the other person that beat them was more prepared. We talk about that a lot.
Man, I remember my very last game of college. We played in the Pentagon in South Dakota, a great historic gym. And we got to like the Final Four of our conference tournament, and we lost in overtime. We were up. Dude hit an amazing like half-court shot to tie the game up. That kind of sunk my heart a little bit. I saw my teammates were kind of like, oh, man, we didn't have the best morale going into overtime. And then we lost in overtime. And that was one of those moments where I did not feel like I had control of my emotions, dude. I went and sat back at my locker, and I was just bawling, crying, went and took my shower, crying in the shower. I got on the bus and, like, secluded myself from my team. Like, it hurt so much because I kind of knew it was over. I kind of was like, dude, this is it. I'm not going to ever do this again at this level.
Yeah. And that's definitely a tough pill to swallow. That one day where it's like finally over. There's something about the anticipation getting to that moment, and then while you're in it, you feel almost excited about it, I'm sure. It's like because you want to perform, but then if it doesn't turn out the way that you want, that's one thing. And then also just having to accept that you're closing a chapter, and it's time to start a new one. But then when you realize that just opens up this world of opportunity, and you can do whatever you want, and you can translate those skills and that work ethic like we talked about, then life becomes a lot more exciting, right? But so many people have problems understanding that piece, right? And they have their identity that's in the past at this point, because you guys do identify as basketball players, and I'm sure you still identify as basketball players, but your relationship to the game is different, so your identification has to change a little bit, and it's almost like the death of a piece of you. I've heard people say that there has to be death of the boy before the man is born.
Real talk. That's some real stuff right there. And that's how it felt in that moment that I was trying to describe. It's like all that whirlwind of emotion, possibly crying. You're not your best self, but that's like the dying process. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's grieving. Yeah. Like that's in the past now, and so you have to let it go, and sometimes that's an emotional release, which is okay. But you can't let it consume you or drag on for too long of a time, right?
Right, and that's why we got to normalize dudes being okay with crying, because that might be the little moment you need to go through to elevate into your next, best self.
Yeah, 100%. 100. Yeah, I've had a lot of emotional experiences, obviously, in my job in the hospital, right? And I hate crying in front of people. It's always awkward to me, and I try to like hold it in. But sometimes even me crying is beneficial for a family member or a patient because they're going through somebody and they need somebody to cry with. And that's definitely not something that I would say I enjoy doing, but playing that role is so beneficial. And being with people at that point in their life is it's a privilege. It's a privilege. And I take pride in being that person. And, you know, it's not fun in the moment. But again, you feel gratified afterwards because you know it was necessary and you feel fulfilled that you went through that. You know, you went through that struggle. And that's why we talk about the struggle is necessary. You know, that's how you grow, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and being vulnerable and connecting with people. And that's often an uncomfortable experience, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that we learn to do with our teammates first because some of those losses hurt. Yeah. They hurt hard. And especially when you're not expecting to lose or it is a championship game or maybe there's a scout there that you're trying to impress, whatever it may be, when you don't perform well and sometimes the whole team's performing bad, right?
Yeah.
And that's definitely a tough pill to swallow. And then the coach might be mad afterwards. There's all these factors, but the important part is moving on and being ready for the next week because you got to let it go.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you talk about kind of how you learn with your teammates first because me and Jarrett not only had positive experience, but we had plenty of times where we went at each other because we both talk a lot, first of all, and we're both super competitive. So there would be times where, you know, it'd be up with me and Jarrett and we'd be screaming at each other, yell, every single thing was like, you know, magnified. And it just teaches you, like, even with your brothers, like you fight sometimes because you guys are both trying to be great. And getting past that is the most valuable thing because if you ever kill a relationship off just because you guys are having a moment of trying to be two alphas, it's not going to be beneficial for you in the long run. So that's another thing I've learned just from having friends like Jarrett is that you can be passionate and not think that they're never going to talk to you again. You know? Like,
yeah. As long as you guys have that clear understanding of each other, right, and also be willing to apologize, right. Yeah. That's very valuable too. Some people are so stubborn that they don't want to apologize, and that's why they end the relationship. Like, I don't want to take accountability for what happened.
Right. Or they don't express their true passion because they think they're going to hurt their friend's feelings, so they're going to like scale it back. But it's like, nah, like, your real friend wants you to be 100% you. Express it. I don't care. I'm not going to judge you. Like,
yeah, a true friend, right?
Yeah.
I think that today there are a lot of keys that people will be able to not only take and benefit them in sports, obviously, but professional, personally, right? Some of these things of us building our trust within each other. I hope that people can see the bond. And there's been many years behind this, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think I've ever been in really a fight with either of you, though.
No, not like a physical one.
Well, not even like, have we been in a verbal, like, altercation? Like, have we had, like, I feel like we haven't had much tension.
Yeah, I not really. I feel like me and you never really got up like that.
No.
Yeah.
It was like when we were younger, a lot of the stuff that went down, we were like in it together, right?
Yeah. But this is the thing is that I played on the football team with Blake, right? So I was mad, but you were just so stronger than everyone that you probably didn't even notice that. Because I'd be like, I'm about to crack Blake, and I go, hey, I fall back, and I'm like,
bounce off of him.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm thinking about my football. You guys talk about how you had some tense moments when you were playing together, right? I had a couple times with my football teammates. I think that they were mad at me maybe, and then I was just like, I don't really care, bro. I'm still here to grind, like, sorry.
Exactly.
And then that emotional piece would be different for me. I would rarely get mad at my teammates unless they weren't trying. If I saw that somebody who had their head down and they thought we were going to lose already, then I would get really upset. And I would tell them, like, you might as well leave because I'm still over here trying to win and you're wasting my time. Right?
Absolutely.
And it gets me fired up thinking about it because we had a small team, right? And it was like not a situation where we could afford for one person to not believe that we could win. And we really had to rely on everyone. And regardless of the size of the team, you're only strong as your weakest link to me. So I would tell people before the game started, if you're not in it to win, then you might as well go ahead and call your mom, pick you up, because we don't need you to step on the field. We'll play with 11 people if we need to, but I just need people that are going to actually put forth the effort and believe that they can do this. And, we had to play Mountain Point, and they were number 8 in the nation at the time, and we had went on like a 4-game losing streak. So it's like, everybody on the team except me thought we were going to lose. And I told them, I was like, if somehow I could play this game by myself, I would. But y'all act like you need to get slapped, right?
Yeah.
And then so that was my leadership role, right? Just bringing that intensity and the confidence, because I knew that I was putting in the work. So I would tell everybody else, if you have an issue with the effort you're putting in the gym, then maybe you should work out next to me, because I'm always trying to get better, right?
Yeah.
And it was simple as that. When it came down to the play calls and stuff, there were always so many excuses on the outcome. And then I would tell people, I think you skipped a set last week when we were working out. You left before me and I got there before you.
Yeah.
So how are you going to really expect to perform at the peak level? And that's a hard thing to portray to kids, high school teenagers, right? And it's hard for a high schooler to receive that type of feedback from another high schooler, right? And that's why it's so important for the leadership to be there within the coaching staff and set that precedent, right? If they're not setting the standard for everyone and children are trying to manage themselves, then there's only so far it can go. So I'm grateful for you guys, because you've both had influences on the youth of the community, which I'm so grateful for, because we need more guys like y'all. And I'm just going to go ahead and say there needs to be more guys like me too.
That's true.
Because I'm confident in what I do, and all I try to do is spread love and positivity. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Nah, man.
And if somebody is going to argue about it, let me know. And we can bring you on the show and talk about it, huh?
Yeah.
But episode 32, man, thank you so much, Mr. Givens, for joining us.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yes, our pleasure, certainly. And, just, I don't know if I did, but I'm going to do it again if I did. Thank God for this opportunity to have this conversation with these lovely gentlemen on this lovely evening. And I suppose, like last week, we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Cheers.
Peace.